The first time Trisha Monroe saw Yeda Carter, she was standing beneath a chandelier worth more than Trisha's entire apartment. It was the kind of chandelier that didn't simply illuminate a room. It announced power. Hundreds of crystal pieces hung from the ceiling of the Monroe Tower's private ballroom, scattering white light across polished marble floors, expensive gowns, tailored tuxedos, and faces that belonged to people whose names appeared regularly in business magazines. Trisha stood near the entrance in a borrowed black dress that was slightly too tight around her shoulders. She had spent 20 minutes that afternoon wondering whether the dress looked cheap. Now she knew the answer. Everything in the ballroom looked expensive. Especially the woman standing at the center of it, Yeda Carter, 32 years old, billionaire, CEO of Carter International, owner of hotels, technology companies, luxury properties, private equity firms, and enough real estate to make the average person's head spin. She was also the youngest woman ever to appear on the cover of Forbes as one of America's most powerful self-made billionaires. Trisha had read about her once, only once. She hadn't expected to meet her. She certainly hadn't expected Yeda to become the most important person in her life. At that moment, however, Trisha only wanted to survive the evening. "You're Trisha," Trisha turned. An elegant woman in a silver gown smiled at her. "Yes, I'm Melissa Carter, Yeda's aunt." Trisha immediately straightened. "Oh, it's nice to meet you." Melissa looked her over, not rudely, almost clinically. "You don't belong here," Trisha blinked. "Excuse me," Melissa smiled. "Don't misunderstand me. I'm not insulting you." It sounded very much like an insult. "You don't belong here," Melissa repeated, "which is precisely why Yeda noticed you." Trisha's stomach tightened. "I'm afraid I don't understand." "You will." Before Trisha could ask another question, Melissa walked away. Trisha stared after her. "What was that about?" "Nothing." The voice came from behind her. Deep, calm, controlled. Trisha turned and suddenly understood why people became nervous around Yeda Carter. Yeda wasn't the loudest person in the room. She didn't need to be. She wore a black tuxedo with a satin lapel, her dark hair swept neatly behind one ear. No unnecessary jewelry, no extravagant makeup. She looked composed, untouchable, beautiful. Trisha hated that her first thought was that Yeda was beautiful. Ms. Carter. "Yeda." Trisha swallowed. "Yeda." For half a second their eyes met. Something shifted. It was subtle. So subtle that Trisha wondered whether she had imagined it. Yeda's expression remained unreadable. But her gaze lingered. "You came. You invited me. I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't. Why?" Trisha gave a nervous laugh. "Because I don't normally attend billionaire parties." The corner of Yeda's mouth lifted. "Neither do I." Trisha looked around the ballroom. "You're joking." "No." Yeda stepped closer. "I don't like parties. Then why host one?" "Because sometimes money requires pretending to enjoy things." Trisha laughed. It was the first genuine laugh Yeda had heard from her. And for some reason, Yeda remembered it. She would remember it for years. "Can I ask you something?" Trisha said. "Of course." "Why did you invite me?" Yeda's expression changed. Only slightly. Then she said, "Because I need your help," Trisha frowned. "My help? Yes." "With what?" Yeda glanced toward the crowd. "Not here." She walked away. After a moment, Trisha followed. 40 minutes later, the private office at the top of Monroe Tower was quieter than the ballroom. Trisha stood in front of a floor-to-ceiling window. Los Angeles glittered below them. Traffic moved like streams of light. The city looked impossibly beautiful from that height. Yeda stood behind her desk. She placed a folder on the table. "Open it." Trisha looked at her. "What is it?" "A contract." Trisha stared. "That sounds ominous." "It isn't. That's exactly what someone says before showing you an ominous contract." Yeda almost smiled. "Open it." Trisha did. The first page contained several paragraphs of legal language. She scanned them, then froze. Her eyes moved back to the first sentence. She looked at Yeda. "You're asking me to marry you?" "Yes," Trisha laughed. Yeda didn't. Trisha stopped laughing. "Oh." Silence. "You've got to be kidding." "I'm not." "Why me?" "Because I trust you." "You don't even know me." "I know enough." "No, you don't. I've done my research." Trisha closed the folder. "You researched me?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I need a wife." Trisha stared at her. "That is the strangest sentence anyone has ever said to me." Yeda walked toward the window. "My company is facing a problem." "What kind?" "My grandfather's trust." Trisha frowned. "Your grandfather? He founded Carter International." Yeda paused. "When he died, he left a condition in his will." "What condition?" "If I remain unmarried by my 33rd birthday, controlling ownership of the company transfers to my uncle." Trisha's eyes widened. "You're serious?" "Very." "That's ridiculous." "I agree." "And you can't fight it?" "I've tried." "And now you want to marry someone?" "Temporarily." Trisha looked at the contract again. "How temporarily?" 1 year. She stared. 1 year? "After that we divorce." Trisha slowly sat down. "This is insane." "Probably." "Why would you choose me?" Yeda's expression softened. "Because you're not interested in my money." Trisha almost laughed. "I am extremely interested in your money." Yeda raised an eyebrow. Trisha sighed. "Fine, I'm not interested in your money." "Exactly. That's your entire reason." "No." Yeda sat across from her. "You have another quality." "What?" "You don't scare easily." Trisha remembered the moment she'd met Yeda. She had been terrified, but she hadn't shown it. Apparently that mattered. Yeda pushed another document toward her. "There's a payment." Trisha didn't touch it. "How much?" $200,000. Her breath caught. 1 year? Yes. Why so much? "Because I need you to disappear from your current life for 1 year. Trisha stared at the number. $200,000. Her mother's medical bills, her student loans, her tiny apartment, her overdue rent, her struggling graphic design business, the debt she'd accumulated after her father's death. $200,000 could change everything. But there was something else. A clause. Trisha's eyes narrowed. "What's this?" Yeda looked at the page. "Confidentiality. I can't tell anyone." "No." "Not my friends." "No." "Not my family." "No." "Not even if they ask." "No." Trisha leaned back. "And what do I get besides money?" Yeda looked at her. "You get security." "I don't need security." "You do." Trisha frowned. Yeda's voice became quieter. "Your landlord has threatened eviction." Trisha's face changed. "You really did research me." "Yes." "You know about my mother's treatment?" "Yes." "That's invasive." "I know." "Then why?" "Because if you marry me, all of it disappears." Trisha looked down. The offer was humiliating. "And tempting, very tempting." "What's the catch?" "There isn't one." "There's always a catch." Yeda didn't answer immediately. Then she said, "You have to live with me." Trisha looked up. "For a year?" "Yes." "Separate bedrooms?" "Yes." "No romantic expectations?" "None." "No physical intimacy?" "Only if you want it." Trisha stared at her. Yeda immediately corrected herself. I know what you mean." For the first time, Yeda looked slightly uncomfortable. That made Trisha smile. The billionaire CEO could negotiate billion-dollar acquisitions without blinking. But talking about romance made her nervous. Interesting. "Why do you look nervous?" "I'm not." "You are." "I'm not." "You are." Yeda looked away. Trisha smiled. Maybe this wasn't such a terrible idea, maybe. She looked down at the contract again. 1 year. 1 year. Then divorce. Yes. No falling in love. Yeda's eyes met hers. Absolutely. Neither woman knew how badly that promise would age. 3 days later, Trisha signed the contract. She regretted it almost immediately, not because of the money, not because of the marriage, because she was beginning to realize that Yeda Carter was impossible to understand. The woman could be warm one moment and distant the next. She remembered tiny details. Trisha liked tea without sugar. She hated elevators when they were crowded. She always slept with the windows slightly open. She preferred old movies. Yeda remembered everything. But Yeda never talked about herself. Not her childhood, not her relationships, not her parents. Nothing. The first week of their marriage was strange. The second was stranger. By the third, Trisha had developed a routine. Wake up, breakfast. Work remotely from Yeda's guest office. Dinner. Pretend they were a normal married couple whenever someone visited. Then separate bedrooms. Except sometimes, late at night, Trisha would hear footsteps outside her door. Yeda never knocked. She simply stood there, sometimes for several seconds, then walked away. Trisha noticed. She never asked. Until one night. "Are you going to keep doing that?" Yeda stopped. She was standing outside Trisha's bedroom. "What?" "Standing outside my door." Yeda looked uncomfortable. "I wasn't." "You were." "I was checking something." "What?" Yeda looked at the door. "I don't know." Trisha smiled. "You're weird." "So I've been told." "Good night, Yeda." "Good night." Yeda turned. "Trisha?" "Yes?" "If you ever feel uncomfortable here," she paused, "you can leave." Trisha's smile disappeared. "I know." Yeda nodded, then walked away. Trisha watched her go. For the first time, she wondered whether the contract wasn't entirely about business. 3 months into the marriage, Yeda brought Trisha to another event. This time, Trisha wore a dark green gown. When she stepped out of the car, Yeda stopped. She stared. Trisha noticed. "What?" Yeda blinked. "Nothing. You were staring." "I was." Trisha smiled. "Do I look terrible?" "No." "Then," Yeda looked away. "You look beautiful." Trisha's heart skipped. It shouldn't have. This was a contract, a business arrangement. Nothing more. But Yeda's voice had sounded different. Not like a compliment, like a confession. Inside the ballroom, everyone knew. Yeda Carter had a wife. The billionaire had finally married, and nobody knew who Trisha Monroe was. That made her the subject of endless speculation. Some people called her a gold digger. Others called her lucky. Some whispered that she had trapped Yeda. Trisha tried to ignore them, until one woman approached her. "You're the wife." Trisha turned. The woman smiled coldly. "I'm Charlotte Bennett." "I've heard of you." "Of course you have." Charlotte was the daughter of one of Yeda's biggest competitors. She glanced at Trisha's dress. "Interesting choice." Trisha smiled politely. "Thank you." "I wasn't complimenting you." Trisha's smile remained. "I know." Charlotte's expression hardened. "Do you know what happens when people like you enter worlds like this?" "What?" "They eventually get replaced." Before Trisha could respond, Yeda appeared. "Charlotte." The woman's face changed. "Yeda." Yeda placed a hand on Trisha's waist. The gesture was small, but unmistakably protective. "Is there a problem?" "No." "Good." Yeda looked at Trisha. "Come with me." Trisha followed. They walked away. Only when they reached a quiet hallway did Trisha speak. "You didn't have to do that." "I know." "Then why did you?" Yeda stopped. "Because she was disrespecting you." Trisha stared at her. "Why does that bother you?" Yeda didn't answer. "Yeda," she looked at Trisha. "Because you're my wife." The words hit harder than they should have. Trisha swallowed. "Only on paper." Yeda's expression shifted. "Is that what you want?" Trisha froze. "What?" "Do you want this to remain only on paper?" Trisha couldn't answer. Yeda stepped closer. Not enough to touch, just enough for Trisha to feel her presence. "I won't force you into anything." Her voice was quiet. "But if you ever want more..." She stopped. Trisha's heart pounded. "More what?" Yeda looked into her eyes. More of me. Then she walked away, leaving Trisha standing alone in the hallway. It happened 2 weeks later. It was raining heavily outside. Trisha was sitting on the balcony with a blanket around her shoulders. Yeda found her there. "Why are you outside?" "I like the rain." "You'll get sick." "I'm fine." Yeda sat beside her. For several minutes neither spoke, then Trisha asked, "Why did you never marry before?" Yeda stared at the rain. "Because I never trusted anyone." "Why?" "My mother married my father for money." Trisha turned. Yeda continued. "She loved someone else." "What happened?" "My father found out." Trisha waited. "She disappeared when I was 8. Yeda's voice remained calm. Too calm. "She left you?" "Yes." "Did she ever come back?" "No." Trisha felt something break inside her. "I'm sorry." Yeda shrugged. "That's life." "No." Yeda looked at her. "Sometimes people leave because staying is harder." Trisha studied her face. "Do you think I'll leave?" Yeda didn't answer. "Yeda, I don't know." Trisha slowly reached for her hand. Yeda looked down. Their fingers touched. Neither pulled away. "You're not your mother," Trisha whispered. Yeda's eyes lifted. "And you're not your father." "I know." "Do you?" Trisha smiled sadly. "I think we're both afraid of being abandoned." Yeda's expression softened. Then she leaned closer. Trisha's breath caught. Neither moved, until Yeda whispered, "Tell me to stop." Trisha didn't. Their lips met. Softly, carefully, like neither woman wanted to frighten the other. It lasted only seconds, but when they pulled apart, everything had changed. Yeda looked stunned. Trisha's heart was racing. "This wasn't in the contract," Trisha whispered. "No." "So?" Yeda touched her cheek. "Maybe the contract is already failing." Trisha smiled. "Maybe." 4 months into their marriage, Yeda's world began collapsing. The company board discovered evidence that someone was leaking confidential financial information. Someone inside Carter International was working with a competitor. Yeda became increasingly distant. She worked until 3 in the morning, stopped eating properly, stopped sleeping. Trisha worried. One night she found Yeda asleep on the couch. Laptop open. Documents scattered around her. Trisha gently closed the computer. She placed a blanket over Yeda. As she turned to leave, Yeda grabbed her wrist. "Don't go." Trisha froze. Yeda's eyes remained closed. "Don't leave me." The words were barely audible. Trisha sat beside her. "I'm here." Yeda opened her eyes. For the first time, Trisha saw fear. Not billionaire fear, not business fear. Something deeper. Personal. "What happened?" Trisha asked. Yeda stared at her. "Someone I trusted betrayed me." "Who?" "I don't know." "Then we'll find them," Yeda laughed quietly. "You say that like it's easy." "No," Trisha squeezed her hand. "But you don't have to do it alone." Yeda looked at their hands, then at Trisha. "I don't deserve you." Trisha smiled. "You didn't buy me." Yeda's eyes filled with emotion. "I know. You saved me." "Trisha, and somewhere along the way..." Trisha hesitated. Yeda waited. "I stopped caring about the contract." Silence, Yeda whispered. "So did I." They kissed again. This time there was no hesitation, no pretending, no contract, only 2 women who had accidentally fallen into something neither had planned. The next morning, Trisha woke to shouting downstairs. She rushed out of the bedroom. Yeda was standing in the living room. Across from her stood a man in his 60s. Trisha recognized him. Ethan Carter, Yeda's uncle. The man who would inherit Carter International if Yeda failed to remain married. "You've made a mistake," Ethan said. Yeda's face was cold. "What did you do?" "I gave the board what they needed." Yeda stepped forward. "What did you give them?" "Evidence." "Of what?" Ethan looked toward Trisha, then smiled. "Your marriage." Trisha's stomach dropped. Yeda went still. "What?" Ethan tossed a folder onto the table. Photographs, documents, the original marriage contract, payment records. "Everything." Trisha stared. Their secret was no longer secret. Ethan smiled. Your wife isn't your wife. Yeda's jaw tightened. Leave. Everyone will know. Leave. You'll lose the company. I said leave. Ethan laughed. You've always been emotional when it comes to her. Trisha looked at Yeda. The billionaire's face had become unreadable. Ethan walked toward the door, then stopped. Oh, and Yeda? He looked back. The contract expires in 8 months, he smiled. Make sure you're ready to let her go. The door closed. Silence filled the room. Trisha looked at Yeda. Yeda? Yeda didn't respond. She stared at the folder, at their contract, at the date. 8 months. 8 months until the marriage officially ended. 8 months until Trisha could walk away. 8 months until Yeda had to decide whether she was willing to break every rule she'd ever lived by. Trisha stepped closer. Are you okay? Yeda looked at her. Her eyes were filled with something Trisha had never seen before. Fear. I don't know. Trisha reached for her hand. Yeda pulled her into an embrace. Tight, desperate, almost frightened. Trisha closed her eyes. She didn't know what would happen next. Neither did Yeda, but somewhere deep inside Yeda's heart, a decision had already begun forming. She had married Trisha because she needed a wife. She had fallen in love because she had never expected to, and now she was beginning to understand something terrifying. When the contract ended, she didn't know how to let Trisha go. The morning after Ethan Carter exposed the marriage contract, Yeda Carter woke before sunrise. She didn't sleep much. She had spent most of the night sitting alone in her study, staring at the same document. The marriage contract. 1 year. 8 months remaining. A divorce clause. A confidentiality clause. A financial settlement. A carefully designed exit strategy. Everything had been logical. Everything had been controlled. Everything had been safe. Until Trisha. Yeda had built her entire life around control. She controlled companies, investments, negotiations, board meetings, her public image, her emotions, especially her emotions. But she couldn't control what happened when Trisha smiled at her from across the breakfast table. She couldn't control the way her chest tightened whenever Trisha walked into a room. She couldn't control the fear that appeared whenever she imagined coming home and finding the house empty. And she certainly couldn't control the thought of Trisha leaving. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Yeda! Trisha. Yeda closed the contract folder. Come in. The door opened. Trisha stood there, wearing one of Yeda's oversized white shirts and a pair of loose pajama pants. Her hair was messy. Her face was bare. She looked nothing like the elegant woman photographed beside Yeda at business events. She looked ordinary, comfortable, real. Yeda loved her like this. That realization frightened her. Did you sleep? Trisha asked. A little. Liar. Yeda almost smiled. You know me too well. Trisha walked toward the desk. She noticed the folder. You've been looking at it all night. Yeda didn't answer. Trisha pulled out the chair opposite her. Talk to me. It's complicated. Our lives became complicated the moment we got married. Yeda looked at her. Trisha smiled softly. So you might as well start talking. Yeda took a breath. Ethan gave the board everything. I know. They'll use the contract against me. I know. There's a chance I'll lose control of the company. Trisha remained quiet. Yeda continued. And if I do... She stopped. If you do... Yeda looked directly at her. You'll be free. Trisha's expression changed. Is that what you want? No. The answer came too quickly. Yeda closed her eyes briefly. No, Trisha leaned forward. Then don't pretend this is only about the company. Yeda said nothing. You love me. The room became completely silent. Yeda's heart pounded. Trisha's voice softened. Don't you? Yeda looked at her. I do. 2 words, but they changed everything. Trisha's eyes filled with tears. Yeda stood. She walked around the desk. Then she stopped in front of Trisha. I love you. Trisha stood. I love you too. Yeda reached for her. Their foreheads touched. For a moment neither woman spoke. Then Trisha whispered, What happens now? Yeda closed her eyes. I don't know. That's okay. No. Yeda opened her eyes. I've spent my whole life knowing what happens next. She touched Trisha's cheek. And now I don't. Trisha smiled. Maybe that's what love is. Yeda laughed softly. That's terrifying. Very. They kissed. For a few precious minutes there was no company. No board, no contract, no Ethan, only them. But the peace wouldn't last. 3 hours later, Yeda walked into the executive boardroom. Trisha stayed home. Yeda had wanted her there. But she refused. This was her battle. She wouldn't make Trisha sit through a room full of people waiting to tear their marriage apart. 11 board members sat around the long table. At the far end sat Ethan. He smiled. Yeda took her seat. Let's begin. The chairman cleared his throat. Yeda, we need to discuss the allegations regarding your marriage. My personal life isn't a corporate matter. It became a corporate matter when your marriage was used to secure your position. Yeda's eyes hardened. I fulfilled the conditions of my grandfather's trust. Through deception. I married. Under contract. Marriage is marriage, Ethan laughed. Is that what you're calling it? Yeda looked at him. Yes, Ethan leaned back. Interesting. The chairman placed documents on the table. There's also concern about the financial transactions. Yeda didn't move. I disclosed everything required, except the payment to your wife. I was not legally obligated to disclose it, but you should have. Why? Because shareholders deserve transparency. Yeda's expression remained calm. Then let's talk about transparency. She pushed a folder across the table. Everyone looked at it. I've completed an internal investigation. Ethan's smile disappeared. Yeda continued. We have identified the person leaking confidential information. The room became silent. The chairman frowned. Who? Yeda looked at Ethan. My uncle. Every head turned. Ethan's face went pale. That's absurd. I have bank transfers. Yeda pushed another folder forward. Emails, another. Recorded conversations, another. And proof that you paid 3 executives to manipulate the company's stock price. Ethan stood. You fabricated those? No. Yeda's voice remained calm. I gave everything to federal investigators this morning. Ethan stared at her. You wouldn't. I already did. For the first time, the billionaire's mask cracked. Ethan's face turned furious. You think this is over? No, Yeda stood. It's just beginning. Security entered. Ethan was escorted from the room. The board remained silent. Yeda looked around the table. Anyone else? Nobody spoke. Good. She gathered her papers. The meeting is over. As she walked out, her phone vibrated. A message from Trisha. Did you survive? Yeda smiled. For the first time that day. Barely. Trisha replied immediately. Come home. I'll make you dinner. Yeda stared at the message. Home. The word meant something different now. When Yeda arrived home, the house smelled like garlic and butter. She found Trisha in the kitchen. You cook? Occasionally. Yeda looked at the stove. What is that? Chicken. It looks dangerous. Trisha gasped. Excuse me? I'm joking. You don't deserve dinner. Yeda smiled. I've had a difficult day. Trisha looked at her. Then you deserve dinner. Yeda walked behind her. She wrapped her arms around Trisha's waist. Trisha relaxed against her. You smell good. That's the food. No, Yeda kissed her neck. It's you, Trisha smiled. You've become very romantic lately. I'm learning. From whom? You. Trisha turned around. Good student? Terrible. Trisha laughed. Yeda kissed her. Then again, the kiss deepened, but Trisha eventually pulled away. Dinner. Yeda sighed. Fine. They ate at the small kitchen table instead of the formal dining room. Trisha had always hated the formal dining room. It felt like a museum. The kitchen felt like home. Halfway through dinner, Trisha asked. What did the board say? Yeda explained. Trisha listened carefully. And Ethan? Investigators are handling him. Trisha lowered her fork. Is it over? No. What else? Yeda hesitated. There is one problem. What? The trust. Trisha's expression became serious. What about it? Even if Ethan is removed, there is still one clause, which is, Yeda looked at her, I must remain legally married until my 33rd birthday. Trisha slowly put down her fork. When is that? 3 months. Silence. Trisha's heart sank. 3 months. Their contract had 8 months remaining, but the trust required only 3. After that, there was no reason for Yeda to remain married. Unless she wanted to. Trisha suddenly felt afraid. What happens after your birthday? Yeda reached across the table. Nothing. Nothing? We stay married. Trisha looked into her eyes. Are you sure? Yes. But your company won't require it. I know. So you'd stay married because... Yeda squeezed her hand. Because I love you. Trisha smiled, but something inside her still hurt. Then why do I feel like you're preparing to leave? Yeda frowned. I'm not. Then why are you still looking at the contract? Yeda went silent. Trisha stood. I need some air. Trisha. I'm okay. She walked outside. Yeda followed. The Carter estate had a large garden overlooking the hills. At night, small lights illuminated the pathways. Trisha walked slowly. Yeda followed several steps behind. You're angry. I'm scared. Yeda stopped. Of what? That once the business problem is solved, you'll realize you don't need me. Yeda stared at her. Trisha, you hired me. I know. You chose me because I was convenient. At first, Trisha looked back. At first. Yeda walked closer. That's the truth. She reached for Trisha's hands. When I met you, I thought I was choosing someone who would help me protect my company. She paused. Then I discovered you were the first person in years who made me feel like a person instead of a billionaire. Trisha's eyes filled with tears. You made me laugh. Yeda smiled. You made me angry. Frequently. You challenged me. Someone had to. You made this house feel like a home. Trisha looked down. And now, Yeda lifted her chin. Now I can't imagine this house without you. Trisha whispered, What if I leave? Yeda's expression broke. Don't. The word was barely audible. Trisha had never heard Yeda sound so vulnerable. Yeda stepped closer. I can lose the company. She touched Trisha's cheek. I can lose the money. Her voice shook. I can lose everything. She stared into Trisha's eyes. But I can't lose you. Trisha kissed her. Yeda held her tightly. And for the first time, neither woman cared whether anyone saw. 3 weeks later, the scandal exploded. News outlets published everything. Billionaire's secret marriage exposed Carter International CEO paid wife, $200,000, contract marriage or corporate fraud. Photographers waited outside the estate. Reporters followed Trisha. Social media became cruel. People called her a gold digger, a scammer, a nobody, a woman who had married a billionaire for money. Trisha stopped leaving the house. One afternoon, she sat alone in the guest room scrolling through her phone. Yeda found her there. Don't read that. Trisha locked the screen. They hate me. I don't care. I do. Yeda sat beside her. Why? Because they're right, Yeda frowned. No. I did marry you for money. At the beginning, but I accepted. You were desperate. I still accepted. Yeda took her hand. You didn't trick me. Still, Trisha, Yeda's voice became firm. You saved me. Trisha looked at her. You gave me something money never could. What? A reason to come home. Trisha's eyes filled. Yeda wiped her tears. I don't want you to hide. I'm scared. I know. People will always think I'm with you because of money. Let them. But I know why you're with me. Yeda kissed her forehead. And that's enough. Yeda's 33rd birthday approached. She hated birthdays, but Trisha insisted. We're celebrating. No. Yes. No. Yes. Yeda sighed. Fine. Trisha planned a small dinner. No celebrities, no executives, no cameras, just a few close friends. Yeda was surprised. She had expected an extravagant event. Instead, Trisha decorated the backyard with warm lights. There were flowers, music, a simple cake. Yeda stared at it. You made this? Yes. Did you bake it? Yes. Is it safe? Trisha glared. You're getting no cake. Yeda laughed. It was one of the happiest evenings she'd had in years. At midnight, Trisha gave her a small box. What's this? Open it. Yeda did. Inside was a simple silver bracelet. Engraved on the inside were 4 words. You are finally home. Yeda stared at it. She couldn't speak. Trisha became nervous. If you don't like it... Yeda pulled her into a hug. I love it. Trisha smiled. Happy birthday. Yeda whispered. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. Then more fireworks appeared in the distance. Everyone cheered. Yeda looked at Trisha and realized something. The trust condition was fulfilled. She no longer needed a wife. She no longer needed the contract. She didn't need to pretend. But she wanted Trisha. Forever. Yeda woke early. Trisha was still asleep. Yeda watched her for several minutes, then quietly left the bedroom. She went to her study. She opened the contract. For several minutes she stared at it. Then she took a lighter. The paper caught fire. Yeda watched the flames consume every page. The contract disappeared. The marriage arrangement, the payment, the conditions, the exit strategy. Gone. She smiled. She had no contract anymore. Only a marriage, a real one. She walked back upstairs. Trisha was awake. Where were you? Taking care of something. Trisha noticed the expression on her face. What happened? Yeda sat beside her. I destroyed the contract. Trisha froze. What? I burned it. Why? Because I don't want our marriage to have an expiration date. Trisha stared at her. Yeda. I know the contract says we can divorce. I know. But I'm not going to. Trisha's eyes filled with tears. You don't have to stay because you feel responsible for me. I'm not. You don't have to stay because you're afraid I'll be hurt. I'm not. Then why? Yeda took her hand. Because I love you. Trisha smiled through her tears. I love you too. Yeda kissed her. For one perfect moment everything seemed right, until Yeda's phone rang. She answered. Her expression changed. What? Trisha immediately noticed. Yeda listened, then stood. How much? Silence. You're certain? Another pause. Yeda's face became pale. Don't tell anyone. She ended the call. Trisha stood. What happened? Yeda looked at her. The board approved the acquisition. What acquisition? Carter International. Trisha frowned. By whom? Yeda's voice was barely audible. Someone bought enough shares to control the company. Who? Yeda stared at the phone, then looked at Trisha. Charlotte Bennett. Trisha's heart sank. The same woman who had threatened her months ago. The same woman who had warned that people like Trisha eventually got replaced. But that wasn't the worst part. Yeda received another message. She opened it. A photograph appeared. It showed Trisha leaving a cafe 3 days earlier. She had been meeting an old friend. Below the photograph was a message. You should have left when you had the chance. Another message arrived. I know your wife's secret. Yeda's blood ran cold. Then another. And if you don't give me Carter International, I'll tell Trisha what really happened the night her father died. Yeda slowly lowered the phone. Trisha saw her expression. What is it? Yeda couldn't answer, because she knew something Trisha didn't. Years ago, before Trisha ever met her, Yeda's father had been involved in the business deal that destroyed Trisha's family, and Yeda had spent years believing it was an accident. Now someone was claiming it wasn't. Someone was saying Yeda's family had deliberately ruined Trisha's father, and if that was true, then the woman Yeda loved had married the daughter of the man her family had destroyed. Trisha stepped closer. Yeda. Yeda looked into her eyes. For the first time since their marriage began, she was terrified. Not of losing her company, not of losing her fortune, of losing Trisha. Because if the secret was true, Trisha might never forgive her. The room seemed to shrink around Yeda. Trisha stood only a few feet away, waiting for an explanation, but Yeda couldn't give her one. Not yet. The message on her phone remained open. I know your wife's secret, and beneath it, tell her what your family did to her father. Yeda had spent her entire life believing that the past was buried. She had been wrong. Yeda! Trisha's voice brought her back. What happened? Yeda locked the phone. Nothing, Trisha frowned. You're a terrible liar. I know. You've been staring at your phone like someone just died. Yeda looked at her. Someone might. Trisha's expression changed. Who? Nobody. Yeda. Yeda walked toward the window. She needed time. She needed answers. Most importantly, she needed to protect Trisha. There's something I need to investigate. Then I'll help. No, Trisha stared at her. No. This is something I need to handle alone. Why? Because it involves my family. Trisha's face tightened. Does it involve me? Yeda said nothing. That was answer enough. Trisha stepped backward. What did you find? Yeda turned. Trisha, what did you find? I don't know the truth yet. Then tell me what you know. Yeda closed her eyes. I know someone is trying to use your father's death against me. Trisha went completely still. My father? Yes. What does he have to do with your family? Yeda hesitated. I don't know. You're lying again. I don't know the whole story. But you know something. Yeda's silence confirmed it. Trisha's voice became softer. What aren't you telling me? Yeda walked toward her. I promise I'll tell you. When? When I know the truth. Trisha shook her head. You don't get to decide what I can handle. I know. Then stop protecting me. Yeda reached for her hand. Trisha pulled away. That small movement hurt more than Yeda expected. I need answers, Trisha said. So do I. Then we'll find them together. Yeda looked at her. Are you sure? No. Trisha's eyes filled with tears. But I'm your wife. Yeda's heart broke, because for the first time she wondered whether Trisha would still say those words after learning everything. Yeda spent the next 2 days investigating her family's history. She contacted former executives, lawyers, accountants, old business partners, anyone who might remember what happened 20 years earlier. The story was complicated. Trisha's father, Daniel Monroe, had owned a small technology company. Carter International had been negotiating to acquire it. The deal collapsed. Daniel was accused of financial fraud. His company went bankrupt. He lost nearly everything. 6 months later, he died in what had been ruled an accidental car crash. Trisha had been 20 years old. She had never known the details. She only knew her father had lost everything. Yeda found the original acquisition documents. Then she found something strange, a missing page. Someone had removed a section from the contract. Yeda called her chief legal officer. Can you recover the original? We'll try. I need it tonight. Yes, ma'am. Yeda hung up. A few minutes later, her assistant entered. Miss Carter. What? We found something. Yeda stood. What? The original financial audit from the Monroe acquisition. Where? An archived server. Bring it. Her assistant placed a tablet on the desk. Yeda opened the file. Her eyes moved across the screen, then stopped. There it was. A series of transfers. Money had been moved from Carter International to a shell company, then from the shell company into an account controlled by Ethan Carter. Yeda's blood ran cold. Ethan had sabotaged Daniel Monroe, not Yeda's father, not the company. Ethan. He had deliberately caused the collapse, and he'd done it to gain control of Carter International. Yeda continued reading. Another document appeared, a handwritten note from her grandfather. If Ethan is responsible, keep this evidence hidden. Until Yeda is old enough to protect herself. Yeda's breathing stopped. Her grandfather had known, but there was more. A second note. Daniel Monroe was innocent. I failed him. Yeda closed her eyes. For years her family had carried the guilt, and Trisha had never known. Yeda immediately called her attorney. Find everything. Everything? Every document related to Daniel Monroe. Why? Because I need to tell my wife the truth. Trisha was waiting in the kitchen when Yeda returned. She had barely spoken to her all day. Yeda placed the files on the table. I found it. Trisha looked at the documents. What is it? The truth about your father? Trisha's hands trembled. Yeda sat across from her. Your father was framed, Trisha stared. What? He didn't commit fraud. What are you saying? Ethan Carter manipulated the acquisition. Trisha's face went pale. He destroyed your father's company. Yeda pushed the documents toward her. These are financial records, transfers, emails, everything. Trisha looked at them. Her eyes moved quickly. Then she stopped. No. Yeda said nothing. No, Trisha stood. You're lying. I'm not. Your family ruined my father. Ethan did. He's your uncle, I know. And your grandfather knew. Yeda nodded. He discovered it too late. Trisha's breathing became uneven. My father spent years thinking he had failed us. She covered her mouth. He thought he was worthless. Yeda stood. Trisha, he died believing he had destroyed our family. Tears rolled down her face. He didn't. I know. He didn't. Yeda approached her. Trisha turned away. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't know. You knew something. I knew there was something involving your father. I didn't know the truth. You should have told me. You're right. Trisha looked at her. You should have trusted me. Yeda nodded. I should have. The silence between them was unbearable. Finally, Trisha whispered. Do you know what hurts the most? Yeda swallowed. What? I thought you were the one person I could trust completely. Yeda's eyes filled. You can. Then why did you hide this? Because I was afraid. Of what? Of losing you. Trisha shook her head. You almost did. Yeda flinched. Trisha walked past her. Where are you going? I need time. Trisha. She stopped. Please. Trisha looked back. I love you. Yeda's voice broke. But I need to understand how to love you without feeling like I'm betraying my father. Then she walked away. Trisha stayed with her friend Mia. Yeda didn't stop her. She wanted to. Every instinct told her to go get her wife, but she knew love wasn't ownership. So she waited. 3 days. 4. 5. Yeda barely slept. She continued running Carter International. She dealt with the acquisition threat. She gave investigators every document. She froze Ethan's remaining assets. She contacted Daniel Monroe's former employees. And every night she came home to an empty bedroom. The house felt enormous. Cold. Meaningless. On the 6th night, Yeda sat alone in the kitchen. She opened the refrigerator. Inside was a small container. A note was attached. Don't eat everything at once. You'll regret it. Trisha Yeda smiled sadly. She remembered Trisha's voice, the way she complained when Yeda skipped meals, the way she stole Yeda's sweaters, the way she fell asleep on the couch during movies. The way she called the billionaire's mansion the house, not mansion, house. Because to Trisha, home wasn't about money. It was about who waited for you inside. Yeda finally understood. She didn't need Trisha because Trisha completed her life. She needed Trisha because she had become part of it. And there was a difference. 2 weeks later, Charlotte Bennett made her move. She called Yeda directly. I'll make you an offer. No, you don't even know what it is. I know you, Charlotte laughed. I control 48% of your company. 48. Enough to destroy you. You won't. Why? Because you don't understand what you're fighting. And you do? Yeda looked out the window. Yes, Charlotte's voice became colder. You love her. Yeda said nothing. That's your weakness. No, Yeda smiled. That's my reason. Charlotte paused. I can expose everything. Do it. What? Expose the contract. Charlotte laughed. You don't care. No. Your reputation? No. Your shareholders? No. What about your wife? Yeda's expression hardened. Don't threaten her. I can destroy her. You've already tried. And I'll keep trying. Yeda's voice became dangerously calm. Then I will make sure you lose everything. Charlotte hung up. Yeda immediately contacted the board. She had a plan. And for the first time, it wasn't about saving the company. It was about ending the war. 2 days later, Trisha came home. Yeda was in the garden. She heard the gate open. She turned. Trisha stood there. Yeda didn't move, neither did Trisha. Finally, Trisha walked toward her. I came back. Yeda's heart nearly stopped. Why? Because I missed you. Yeda looked down. I missed you too. Trisha stood in front of her. I was angry. I know. I still am. I know. I don't know if everything will be easy. It won't. But I don't want easy. Yeda looked at her. I want honest. Yeda nodded. You have my word. Trisha reached into her bag. She pulled out a small box. Yeda frowned. What is that? Open it. Yeda opened it. Inside was a wedding ring. Her eyes widened. Where did you get this? I bought it. Why? Trisha took a breath. Because the first ring you gave me belonged to a contract. She held the new ring. This one doesn't. Yeda couldn't speak. Trisha continued. I don't want to be your contractual wife. Yeda's heart dropped. I want to be your real wife. Yeda stared at her. You? Trisha smiled through tears. If you'll have me. Yeda laughed, then cried, then pulled Trisha into her arms. I'll have you for the rest of my life. They kissed, not because a contract required it, and not because business demanded it, because they chose each other. 3 months later, Yeda and Trisha stood in a small garden in Napa Valley. No reporters, no executives, no billionaires. Just family and friends. Yeda wore a simple ivory suit. Trisha wore a long white dress. The same woman who had once been afraid to walk into a billionaire's ballroom now walked confidently toward the woman she loved. Yeda waited for her. When Trisha reached her, Yeda whispered, You look beautiful, Trisha smiled. So do you. The officiant smiled. Yeda Carter, do you take Trisha Monroe to be your wife? Yeda looked into Trisha's eyes. I do. Trisha Monroe, do you take Yeda Carter to be your wife? Trisha smiled. I do. The rings were exchanged. Yeda's hands trembled. Trisha noticed. Nervous? Terrified. Why? Because this time there's no contract. Trisha laughed softly. Good, Yeda smiled. Good? Because now you have to keep me forever. Yeda leaned closer. That was always the plan. They kissed. Everyone applauded. For once, Yeda didn't care about appearances. For once, Trisha didn't care what anyone thought. They were simply two women who had chosen each other. 1 year later, Carter International survived. Barely, but it became stronger. Ethan was eventually convicted of financial fraud. The truth about Daniel Monroe became public. Trisha's father's name was cleared. Yeda personally funded a scholarship in his name. Trisha eventually reopened her design studio, but she refused to work for Carter International. I don't want to work for my wife, Yeda smiled. Good. Why? Because I want you to have something that's yours. Trisha kissed her. You really are learning. I had a good teacher. Their marriage was no longer a secret. The media still called Trisha a billionaire's wife. Trisha hated the phrase. One afternoon, a reporter asked, How does it feel to be married to one of America's richest women? Trisha smiled. I wouldn't know. The reporter looked confused. Why? Because I didn't marry her money. She glanced at Yeda. I married the woman who makes coffee at 6 in the morning, steals my blanket at night, and thinks she's terrible at romance, even though she's actually very good at it. Yeda laughed. The reporter smiled. And Yeda? Yeda looked at her wife. I married the woman who walked into my life because of a contract. She paused and stayed because she became my home. Years later, the original marriage contract sat inside a glass box in Yeda's study. Trisha discovered it one afternoon. She stared at it. You kept this? Yeda walked up behind her. Of course. Why? Because it reminds me of who I was. Trisha turned. And who are you now? Yeda smiled. Your wife. Trisha laughed. Only that. Yeda wrapped her arms around her. Your wife, your best friend, your biggest headache. Definitely. Your personal driver. You hate driving. I do. Your cook. You burn toast. I've improved. Your worst enemy. Yeda kissed her forehead. Never. Trisha looked at the contract. So this is where it started. Yeda nodded. And this is where it ended. She pointed toward the glass box. Trisha smiled. No. Yeda raised an eyebrow. It didn't end there. What do you mean? Trisha took her hand. The contract ended. She squeezed Yeda's fingers. But we didn't. Yeda smiled. No, she kissed Trisha gently, we never will. Outside, sunlight poured through the windows. The city stretched beyond them. The company, the money, the houses, the cars, the headlines. All of it had once mattered to Yeda. But now she understood the truth. The greatest fortune of her life had never been Carter International. It wasn't the billions. It wasn't the empire. It wasn't even the power that came with her name. It was the woman who had once walked into her office needing money, the woman she had married for business, the woman who had become her best friend, her safest place, her home, her wife. And if someone had asked Yeda what she would choose now, given the chance to start over, she wouldn't hesitate. She would choose Trisha, without the contract, without the money, without the empire. Just Trisha. Every time, because the woman she had once hired to pretend to love her had become the woman Yeda couldn't imagine living without.